everybody, a warm welcome to another interview on Wisdom from North. I'm Jannecke, and today I'm so excited to be here with Vivian Songe. And in my videos these weeks, I am focusing on your soul's calling and finding our mission in life, because I'm warming up to my live event that is going to start the 16th of September that I've called Discover Your Soul's Calling, an 8 days journey. And I would love for you to join if you feel that you are searching for a deeper purpose with your life and you feel that your soul might be knocking on the door, then this event is for you. And you can sign up, it's totally free in the link below. And today we will continue on speaking about your soul's calling, and I'll do so with my friend here, Vivian Songe. Hello, how are you? A warm welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm doing very well, and I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yes, because I was thinking about who is an inspiring person to interview about not only having found your calling, but have manifested it, like going really for your dreams. Because you really went for your dreams when you founded an online magazine journalism school, both in Norwegian and in English, and it has a huge success. And you're teaching people how to become professional writers and start writing professionally and live from it as well. And I just saw on your website or somewhere else that your aim is to awaken and inspire dormant writers out there to really believe in themselves and to believe in their message as well. And I find that so beautiful, and I find that we're have some sort of similar aim, because my aim is also to awaken people up to their potential, to their highest potential, and to their core message. And I would love to start this conversation by asking you how your life has changed after you really started to live in alignment with your soul and following what you felt you were called to do, like the before and after in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so I think that I need to say that even from when I was 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to write, and I knew that I had some kind of a message or something I wanted to communicate to people. So this was, like I said, dormant, like you said, dormant in me my whole life. And the feeling of not getting this out feels very limited in a way, like you have a lid on something, and once you let it out, it feels like a relief, like freedom and free, and like you're elevated. So for me, it feels like I'm more visible as myself, and that is also a challenge sometimes, but it feels more true, like I'm living more in truth, you know?
Yes, because it's not necessarily that our lives becomes this pink cloud that we're like flying on. We still have a lot of challenges, like I can find in my world. Even though I feel like I'm following my calling, I still have a lot of challenges, but it feels like a more true way of living. And I love that you're saying like liberating, feeling more free, like more who you are. And the interesting thing is that we are so afraid of being who we are, and maybe sometimes we don't even know who we are. But you've always had this voice, this hunch of what you wanted to do, right? Like this inner voice telling you what to do.
Kind of. If you could call it a voice or a sensation, an awareness that there is something, like there is something inside of me, and it wants to come out, and it wants to be shaped by me. So I have to kind of shape my message and put it into words. So for me, it's been words mainly that I've used to express this, and it feels like an urge, like something I have to do, you know?
Yes, and it came from your childhood, right? Because you started reading and writing very early.
Yeah, I taught it to myself. Like when I was 5, it was still in Norway 2 years before we started school. So I asked my parents if they could teach me the alphabet, because I really wanted to read and write. So they taught it to me, and then I started writing immediately. So it was like I was just waiting to be able to write. And I know a few other writers also feels the same way. So I guess it is kind of like a soul's calling.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating that we can actually go back to our childhood to see our qualities, where our attention went, what we did. And often we don't remember that. So sometimes I think it's a good idea to actually ask our parents, like, what did I talk a lot about? What did I care about? Because we were not as conditioned when we were young. Then we were more like natural and pure, and then life happens and we kind of forget all about our dreams and what we thought about. So I feel like that is a clue, and that was the case for you as well. Like, you loved writing, and
Yes,
now
I love reading, writing, and also just creating things. Like I often would boss people around, like make this up stories and tell them what roles to play. So they didn't get much of a choice, but then I got my vision. I had the vision of this story, and then maybe we had to act it out, or I wrote it, but I just always had this stories, ideas, things I wanted to come out. Yeah.
So when did you get the idea to start what you're doing now, that you've had such a success with doing?
Yes, it was over the course of probably a couple of years after I had a lot of experience being a magazine writer myself, and people ask me all the time, how do you do it? Can we have a cup of coffee? Can you give me some tips? And I really want to start being a freelance writer, but how can you earn money from it? How can you get into all these different publications? Because by that time I had written for like 30 different publications and like 4 different publishing houses. So they wanted the tips. And I was like, no, I want to write. Like, I don't want to sit and drink coffee all the time. And it was a little bit exhausting. And then this online course business started to pop up in the US and a little bit in Norway. And I saw that this was an option, that you can make an online course out of something you're an expert on, even if it's from your experience. And so that's when the idea came. And then I saw other people having online courses, and I took a few online courses myself. And I understood that this is really, it doesn't exist. I haven't seen it in Norway, and it's not that many of them on the international market. So then I started together with my fiance today, and we started from actually Mexico. We were in Mexico for half a year with our son. He was 8 months old, and we started from there. And from then on, it just took off. So it was a little bit surprising too that it took off so fast.
Yes, and tell us that story, because you actually went to Mexico with hardly any money on the bank.
Yes, it was really not much. And all we had to invest in our new company that didn't yet exist, of course, but to invest in the ads on Facebook was like 10,000 kroners. So it's like 100 euros. No, I mean 1,000 euros, I think, something like that. And that's all we had. And we invested those money, and then got like, I don't remember exactly now, but 4 or 5 times back. And then we could invest the next time. So we grew from there. Mm-hmm.
But what about money to like survive? Like
we had that. So we didn't only have 10,000 kroners, but we had 10,000 to invest. And we lived in an apartment, and everything was fine and a normal, okay standard. But we didn't have a big, like, people go around, they asking for like scholarships or investments, or they're looking for investors. We didn't do any of that. We just took kind of our pocket money and used that,
Right. So you kind of debunked that myth that we have to have like all this capital.
Yeah, like $1 million, otherwise you can't start anything,
Right. But how did you find this courage to just do it your own way?
Yes. I thought about that. I think courage to me, I try to distinguish and have distinguished between real danger and fake danger. So I think that when we do, because I've actually done parachuting once, and I didn't really want to do it, but I did it for an article as a journalist. And then I felt real fear of dying. And I knew that when I do this, when I throw myself out of an airplane, I can actually die. This can happen, and I have to know about the risk and choose yes or no. And so I did it, and I didn't die. So that was good, of course. But then all the other times when I do things like this, when I talk in an interview, when I write an article, when I start an online business, it's not real danger. It's kind of like think of it as danger, we get this danger flash, a sign in front of us, because it's uncomfortable and it feels scary, because what might other people think of us, you know, and what might happen, maybe I fail. But it's not dangerous. So I kind of distinguish between danger that can kill me or hurt me, and danger that I have, it will be kind of just strengthening my mental and psychological state of mind. So it's still uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous, you know?
And I watched an interview, and you say it's kind of important for you to have that exhilarating feeling that
yeah. It is. So that's my kick, exactly. So I don't get a kick out of it, because I tried parachuting and it was kind of interesting and fun in a way, of course, but I didn't get that kick, that rush that people do that need the adrenaline. So the adrenaline or the rush for me is not knowing. I don't know if this business will go well in 2 months. It's been going well for 6 years now, but for every 2 months, I don't really know. And it's been like that the whole career as a freelancer. Like, next month, maybe I won't have an income, but that never happened, because I was living in the flow, you know, I was kind of just going with the flow and seeing.
Yeah, tell us.
Attentive, you know.
Sorry?
I was being attentive and listening to myself and the signs around me, and then every step would kind of appear. So it's like, if it's a ladder, you don't see the whole ladder, and you just have to trust and climb.
But tell us more about that, because in business, and I assume a lot of people out there was watching, or some of you guys want to create something, you know. I have a lot of people following Wisdom from North wanting to start their own businesses, or become a therapist, or help people, but they're afraid that, you know, I don't know the how. I don't know the how, and I don't have the money. That's like number one. I don't have the money, and I don't know how. And a lot of I've spoken to some economists. They're like, you got to have a plan. You got to have this plan, this strategy, this budget. It's all about the numbers. But what do you say to that? Do you feel like you don't need all those strategies, or?
No, I think I do a combination, because I was a freelancer before. So I was used to being kind of my own boss and figuring out how much do I need to earn next month to make it. And so I was into that. But then I had my fiance that I partnered up with, and he had a lot of experience as an entrepreneur, and he had failed many times. So I kind of could step on his shoulders, because this was the time that he succeeded with me. So I kind of got all of his experience before. And yes, so he is more of the planner, and he does the budget, and he does all of that. And then combined with my kind of intuition and my willingness to just go with it and listen. And sometimes I say, even if he has a plan that makes sense business-wise, I may say, okay, but I still want to do it like this. So then we follow my intuition, because he's learned, like he says, to not question it when it's like that. But when I don't know, when I'm like, yeah, why not? Then we just follow the budget. So I do a little bit, unless I get a hunch, we just follow the plan, you know.
So how have you learned to listen to that hunch?
Yes. How did I learn that? That's a good question, because I think by doing it, probably, because I think that I felt it early. I remember feeling it early, and I was in this dancers environment in my hometown in Risør on the south coast of Norway. And then I danced. We had all these dance trainings, and we did theater, so I was a lot on the stage. And then I learned, again, the difference between fear that is dangerous and fear that won't kill you. You still have to go on stage. And also the hunch, when to be careful, when to think, when to try one more time. It's like you get more to listen deeply, I guess, to my body in a way, because as a dancer, you have to listen.
Yes, and I assume that you've trained your ability to listen also through writing, because when you write, you get into
I think that came because in the beginning it was the body, I feel, but then as I started to really express myself, and as we did all the writing we did in school and all the writing I did out of school and the reading, yes, that too, because then my sense of how people think, how they feel, and how the connection to the soul between the words on the paper and the soul kind of became, so I understood that there was a connection. So I guess when I started free writing, this is one of the techniques that I teach in my courses, that if you free write, if you set the timer to like 5 or 10 or 15 minutes and you just free write without judgment and without limitations, you reach this other level inside of you, and that's where this intuition or these hunches kind of reside. So it's like a gut feeling, and when you're used to listening to that, it's easier to know when it's true and when it's not, I guess. But of course, you always kind of take a chance. But then you learn that, okay, this worked like 20 times, so maybe it works this time.
Right. Yeah, I think so many things in life has to do with practice.
Yes.
It seems like the universe is just made that way, that we need to practice something in order to be better. And it's the same with intuition, that in order to differentiate what is my ego and what is my intuition, what is clear intuition and what is just fear, we have to practice listening to it. And that is different for you and different for me, how we also receive messages and hunches.
Yeah, so you get to know your language in a way, if you would call it your intuition language or your soul's language, or your inner language. So I guess I got used to the body language from dancing and the words from writing and reading. And then sometimes it feels like a voice, but maybe it could be a sensation, but it feels like you know it. And sometimes you don't follow this, your own kind of inner advice, and then you regret it afterwards. Why didn't I listen? You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have it like that.
Yeah.
So writing, and I feel like writing is such a spiritual thing to do. You can even write just to connect with your soul, to like get deeper into what, who am I? Because like yours, I know that you love Carl Jung, and and the subconsciousness. And so what are your takes on what creativity is? What you're actually tapping into when you're writing?
Creativity, yes. I am very fascinated by the TED Talk that I will recommend to all of you by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's called The Elusive Creative Genius. I feel that what she talks about in this TED Talk is true. And she says that it's kind of like inspiration, creativity, ideas we have when we write books, for example, or articles or whatever we write, are like fluttering around us in the air, and they're looking for somewhere to land. So now I also think of it like birds. They're like birds, they have some kind of message and they want to be expressed. So if they have a book idea, they will kind of look for someone to express it. So if it lands in your head or on your shoulder or in your heart, you feel the inspiration, because it's like, oh, this is mine, And then you need to start writing, but you need to do it fast, because these birds are kind of impatient. So they will, if you don't respond, if you don't write it down, if you don't do something about it, they just continue on to the next person. So I like this idea, and I kind of agree, because that's how it feels when I get creative ideas. I have to kind of grab them and make them mine. So
I've heard of that before. I think it was Neil Donald Walsh, and I've interviewed him. I think it was him, but don't arrest me if it's not, that he said that another person got the same idea.
Yeah, that could also happen. So that's why probably, if this is right, people will get generally the same ideas all over the world at the same time, because kind of the ideas are in the ether, if you will. And I also think, like you talked about Carl Gustav Jung, that the collective subconscious, not only our personal subconscious, but the level deeper than that, is kind of a subconsciousness and a history of everything, of language, of words, of symbols, of ideas that we all share. So I think that when you dig deep, especially through writing, and when you free write, you kind of reach this level, and you don't necessarily know exactly where this knowledge or these ideas or these expressions are coming from. And they may come from something far back in history or today, or from another person that you've never lived as a young person in New York, and you can still write about it because you get impressions from this collective subconscious as a writer. That's what I think.
It's kind of magic. So you have to dive deep. I mean, you have to be kind of open-minded to be.
Yes, very. And then also listen deeply. Kind of dig deeply, listen deeply, and then let it kind of float to the surface.
So this exercise, writing freely, is that something you do with if you're right-handed, you do it with your left hand, for instance?
You can. I generally just do it with the hand that my right hand. I'm right-handed, but you can do, yeah, you can. Like a lot of people do that as an exercise to mix it up and to use the other part of the brain. And so I know that it's widely used also with the other hand, but I usually just have to get it down fast, and then I can't think about the other hand. I just have to write it, you know.
So could that be an exercise to go deeper in finding your calling, for instance? Like if you do that as an exercise.
Yes. And then it's important actually to learn from journalism, because it's important to ask open questions. That means closed questions would be like, are you happy today? And you can only answer yes or no, or I don't know, you know. But if you say, how do you feel today? Then you can answer anything. So it's the same. Ask the open questions and kind of wait and listen and then write whatever. And then you cannot have any expectation of the answer, because that will kind of block it. So just, if then the answer is, oh, I'm so tired, I don't know, the floor is wet, or it's raining today, I need to watch something on TV, just write that, because the answer may come after that in a flow of something that seems completely useless. There may be like this golden glimmer that you can use. So you just have not think that I asked the question and then the answer will come. It's not that clear, you know.
Okay, so that means that it might not come today, but it
might not. But then if you free write and you keep holding on to the question, it may suddenly be there, and then it's kind of a knowing inside of you, because you asked and you dug deeply with listening and with writing. That's my experience, at least.
Yeah, it seems like you have a really trust to something deeper, something greater, and intelligence, because I think it needs this element of trust, because our ego can sabotage so quickly and say, this doesn't work, you know, I'm just making it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that you can't, I could also choose to say that I'm making it up, but I think it depends on the resonance you feel. When you feel truth, the difference between just a word or something that somebody says, an idea that you don't really care about, and truth is for me a resonance, like sound, like it's the same rhythm in a way. If something is out of rhythm or out of tone, it's like, but if you feel this, it rings true, then it's a feeling. But it's, again, you have to experience it to understand.
Yes, and be aware that.
Yeah, and be aware.
Be present with whatever happens.
Yes.
So you have also said that you kind of need to be a bit bored sometimes to open up to creativity, that we need some time to just have an open mind. If we're too busy all the time, filling our every 5 minutes with something, then creativity won't get the chance to say, hello, I have an idea.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we are all in danger of not having enough space around us and inside of us, because we fill everything up. We're being entertained all the time by everything that's available to us. But if you don't just go for a walk without listening to a podcast, or just like sit in your chair, close your eyes, listen to some music maybe, but be open to whatever comes to you, because we do have a brain, we have a soul, and everything's connected. So there are so many things that can happen just with nothing, you know?
Yeah. I just had a wonderful interview with Mada, her name is, and she talked a lot about this nothingness. And if we want to go deep into spirituality, you know, those enlightened people talk about this nothingness, that something comes out of nothingness. And I think a lot of us are scared of the nothingness, scared of quietness. Like just being quiet, like I know you've been going to Italy on these quiet retreats, and that is scary to a lot of people, because then they'll meet themselves.
Absolutely. And then I think it helps being a writer, or being able to write, or using writing as a tool, because then you have at least something to do. Because if you just sit there and you need to be quiet and you don't know, it's kind of like yeah, it can be a little bit claustrophobic, but then at least you can write, you know,
Right.
get something out of it, out of
Yeah.
the silence.
I went to India, and there we were in silence for a month, and I was writing this book, but then the teachers came over to me and said, "You're not actually allowed to read."
Yeah, exactly, and because that's also actually almost
Yeah.
like listening.
Yeah, we were like not supposed to do anything, like writing or reading, because then you meet yourself.
Yeah, and that's scary. I think it's scary too, definitely. I'm not the best at
Me neither. Me neither. No,
Mm.
it was scary, but because I met a lot of my shadows. But I think when you do meet them, that's where you don't need to suppress them anymore. So it is, for me, it is the hero's journey, because if you really want to get those shadows and trolls out of the system, you need to actually meet them. And a fast way to do that is to go into silent retreat. And to get in deeper contact with, you know, your creativity, because that can come too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So have you used the law of attraction or like spiritual principles in your creation as well?
I think, yeah, people will probably call it different things, but I think I agree that I think it is where attention goes, energy flows.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's very logical, and also something I've seen numerous times in my own life, is that whatever you put your attention on will grow. And even if you put your attention on something, it will make something grow. So it's really important just to make something move in your life. If it's one thing or the other, it may not lead to whatever you thought it would, but it will lead to some kind of movement, some kind of result. And I think that I've attracted a lot of things by being very aware of my thoughts and my words and what I choose to speak out loud. And I kind of feel like I feel it when I ruin the energy in something by saying something bad. So I feel like I have to kind of adjust it again. So I could say maybe to my fiance, if we talk about something and I say something negative, and I will correct it. I will say, oh no, like kind of erase that. I would rather say this, and then I form my words in another way.
Wow.
I feel that my words create. Mm.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because you're so probably conscious of words to begin with.
Yes.
And then and that takes practice.
Yes.
And we rehearse that in my membership as well, being really aware of the words we use. Like there's so many expressions that is really not supporting us. Like saying like, this makes me sick to my stomach, or this is killing me, or she's killing me. Like we have so many cool expressions, but what are they actually doing to us?
Yes, that's what I mean. The kind of the frequency of the word.
Right. So back to what we talked about, that there's no map. I find that so fascinating with life. Life doesn't give us the map or our soul. But part of your path was meeting your husband, because he's been part of manifesting your soul's calling. And I know you're not going to tell the whole story,
no.
But sometimes I think these soul encounters are so important that they're really meant to be happening, because you actually needed him to manifest what.
Yeah, and we helped each other manifest each other's businesses, because he has a business too now. His own business. We started together, and then we have one each, but we're still kind of co-working sometimes. But still, and both of us need, because our first success was together. So it's kind of the joint energy, and then it turned into two things, but none of them could exist without this beginning. So it's kind of a lot of synchronicities led up to this.
So for those who are single out there, Vivian, do you have any advice on how to create these synchronicities?
Yes, to create them.
If that's possible, or
if that's what I was wondering. I was trying to think, is that possible? And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that there are synchronicities. At least a lot of them have happened in my life. And then the trick is to be open to them, and to actually, even if you think, no, this is not a good time, or I wasn't going to do that, this is not the plan. This is like when I met my fiance today, you know, I was going to be single for a while. I just broke up with someone, and I bought an apartment. I was going to stay there for by myself and kind of think about life, what do I want and all these things. And then he turned up, I think it was 3 or 4 months later, or like just a few months. And then instead of just saying, no, my plan is this and that, and I'm sticking to that, I kind of listened to all the signals. I was like, okay, I'll go meet him. And then this leads up to something. So it's really important to be open and not think that you have all the answers, and kind of listen with kind of all of your senses. Yeah, so, and things can be quite different than what you think, because, you know, I know that at least my single friends, they have a lot of thoughts about, I want a man who is like this and that and this and that, and if it's not, then forget about it. But I think that will block a lot of the opportunities, because you can't know before you kind of check it out a little bit.
And you know when you know, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I actually think we can create synchronicities, because I think that is when we start this spiritual journey, and when we start a conscious journey, because I talk a lot about living consciously and unconsciously, like living on the autopilot versus living a conscious life. When you start living more consciously, you will create more synchronicities. Maybe they were there, but you didn't see them. That I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
When you're getting more into this flow state, when you are listening and taking the steps and listening again and taking that step.
And then more are coming, you mean?
Yeah, then you will see that things are starting to align all the time.
That's true. I think that it's a flow to it. It's like the first, you have to be, I think the first step is actually listening to what's my truth, and then it's being courageous enough to take the first step. And then it may lead to something else than you thought, but taking that first step will lead to some kind of energy that makes things show up for you at the right time and the right place. And if you keep everything closed and you don't want to be open to begin with, it's hard for these synchronicities to start happening. But I think, like you say now, that if you first are open to it and you start to follow it, you create this kind of flow. I don't know how to prove this, but it's an experience.
Yeah, because we are conscious, or we are so powerful creators. It's just a matter of if what we are creating, if we're creating what we actually don't want because we're not aware of what we're creating, or if we're actually going on a journey and we are aware, like you're saying, of your thoughts, of what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's when a conscious journey is starting, and all of a sudden it seemed like, that's my experience, that magic is happening.
Yeah, magic. I have this big painting on my wall at home, and it says, I believe in magic. And I see this every day, and I think that also kind of goes into my business. And I'm like, I believe in magic, and I feel like magic is really important in life. So as I just choose to believe in magic. I create magic. I want everything to be a little bit magical, and I think that kind of gives everything a bit of a glow.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. I think we're going to end there on the magic. Thank you so much, Vivian. And so if people are interested in learning more, they can either, if they're English, contact you on, you have an English website as well?
Yeah, my English website, you can go to my name, viviansonge.com, or you can go to magazineriders.academy. And in Norway, it's viviansonge.no or journalistskolen.no.
Beautiful. Kind of similar to me, like having things in Norwegian, having things in English. I love that. Thank you so much. And all the best with your beautiful work. That is so important. I think your work is really valuable because you're helping people really find their voice. So I want to thank you for what you're doing. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching, guys. And I would love to see you in my live event, Discover Your Soul's Calling, an 8 days journey. Thank you so much for watching. Much light from Norway. Bye-bye.